It's another divestment disaster!
Coming to paperback and e-readers, John Haynes, A Thorn in My Side. The man who rules the world takes on an agent from the CIA from the Black Boule in this action-packed all-new John Haynes series adventure. Pre-order your copy of John Haynes' A Thorn in My Side at Amazon.com and other online booksellers. Better get the coleslaw, y'all, cause we're having us a barbecue. Actress Zoe Saldana emasculated her husband at the Critics' Choice Awards. Now, Zoe Saldana was attending the Critics' Choice Awards, where she was nominated for Best Supporting Actress for her performance in the critically panned movie Amelia Perez, and as she was attending the Critics' Choice Awards, she called out to her husband for a few pictures, and the way she called out to him was showing how little regard she had for him, because she called to him like a child saying, "Come here," and when he didn't move fast enough, she held up a fist and told him to come here. And this is where this Italian white man scurried away to his wife, and as he scurried over to his wife, this is where she was able to take that picture that showed them as a couple. But the whole way she called to this man basically had people wondering how dysfunctional their relationship was behind the scenes. Now, this whole incident at the Critics' Choice Awards basically showed the whole situation that happens with many swirlers and divestors as related to their relationship, because while many of these women go out here and make claims that they cannot find a black man of good character to have a relationship with, what happens is they say that they have to explore their dating options and pursue relationships with white and non-black men. But when I look at this whole situation, I have to wonder what type of character that Marco Perigo Saldana has for him to allow himself to be humiliated and emasculated in this way by his wife in public during a major event. Because when it comes to any man of character, he's not going to stand to be disrespected like this in a social situation, because if he goes out here and allows a woman to go out here and show little regard for him in a public situation, then it's going to send a message to the world that he is a weak man. And I have to wonder how strong of a man Marco Perigo Saldana is, because this guy basically is not looking to take the lead in the relationship, because as he married Zoe Saldana, he basically took on her last name, and as he took on her last name, that really shows me that this guy really has no backbone or stones, and that Zoe Saldana possibly has his testicles inside of the change purse of her Birkin bag, and basically because she has those testicles inside of her change purse of her Birkin bag, she believes that she does not need to treat this man in a way that's respectful of his position of leadership and stewardship that God has established for him. No, when it comes to Zoe Saldana, she's looking and sounding a lot like the feminist indoctrinated women that I talk about in my book, The Woman Crisis, and possibly is on the road to becoming one of the 70% of black women who are single, like I talk about in my book, Why 70% of Black Women Are Single. Now, Zoe Saldana basically thinks that she possibly is out here at the peak of her career, being someone who has gone out here and starred in one of the highest grossing films in box office history with Avatar and with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and now is on her way to possibly an Academy Award win for her performance in that just really awful movie Amelia Perez. And possibly what's happened here is that her head has gotten extremely gassed up, and as her head has gotten gassed up, she's thinking that she's at the top of the world, and as she's thinking that she's at the top of the world, she now doesn't really see her husband, again, as a man she needs to respect or regard, and that possibly could be a grave error for Zoe Saldana, because when it comes to a lot of feminist indoctrinated women, as they rise in their careers, this is where they start to become extremely arrogant. And as they become extremely arrogant, they start to believe their own hype, similar to what happened with Ebony K. Williams, that made it where she became completely incompatible with any man because of the feminism that she had been indoctrinated into. And because of that, she basically had no respect for any man, especially heterosexual black men. But what's happening here is that while Zoe Saldana was able to, again, go out here and swirl and divest, she's basically laying the foundation for her own divestment disaster, because if she would have no regard for her Italian white man in public, then she possibly dominates him in private, and dominates him in private to the point where she doesn't see him as a man, but just sees him as a child. And it's usually at this point where these women have no regard for their husbands that those men basically start to feel extremely emasculated. And this is where their whole paradigm for their relationship starts heading down to the paradigm of failure that I talk about in my book, Why 70% of Black Women Are Single. Because what happens with those women is as their heads get gassed up and they get hopped up on power based on their ego, what happens with these women is they start thinking they don't need to respect that man. And that's when the natural man comes out in these men, and these men basically start to feel powerless about their situation because they start to understand their role in God's order is to be the head over the relationship and be the one who's leading in the relationship. And when they see this woman having more power than they do, that's when those men start looking to make a plan to exit the relationship. And as they are in there, they start to think about exiting the relationship because they cannot be the leader that they want to, that they are established under God's order. They can't be the head of the relationship. They can't be the one who is in even charge of themselves. And as they're feeling, again, emasculated because they're being treated like a child, what happens with these men is, again, like I talk about in my book, Why 70% of Black Women Are Single, they do three things to establish dominance. Either they go out here and look to impregnate the woman so that they can establish dominance on a primal level, or they look to participate in physical violence because they feel, again, powerless, and this is how they lash out. Or what they do is leave the relationship and find other prospects with women who are more submissive. And this is where Zoe Saldana possibly is on the road as related to things, because as she looked to, again, explore her dating options and, again, look to swirl and divest, basically she put herself on a road to a divestment disaster that possibly could wind up costing her big money if this guy basically makes less money than she does, and possibly does make less money than she does, because when it comes down to these kind of white guys, usually it's the poorer white guys who go after these richer black women, like in the case of Halle Berry. When it came down to Halle Berry, she was, again, making so much money and was basically a woman that no black man could work with, so she started dating white guys. But the whole thing is she was stuck in a paradigm of failure where she was only getting involved with these lower class beta male white guys. And again, when it comes to these beta males, again, these beta males will appear to be submissive on the outside, but will be plotting passive aggressively on the inside, looking to build wealth at the expense of that woman, like in the case of Gabriel Aubry and Olivier Martinez. In the case of Halle Berry, Halle Berry thought that she could dominate those men, but when those men basically flipped the game on Halle Berry, what she wound up was in a situation where she was stuck paying child support, and the same fate is now Jessica Alba may suffer with Cash Warren she may wind up having to pay child support to Cash Warren because she, again, another feminist indoctrinated woman, wanted to find a man that she could get power and control over. And sadly, as she got power and control over him, she may be on the road to paying child support to Cash Warren. And the same fate could happen to Zoe Saldana, because as she's again been making big money in these movies, she's with a man who basically is a guy who was so emasculated that he wound up going out here and taking on her name. But it could have been a strategic move, like a chess move, because again, when it comes to white men do not marry for love. No, white men marry for economics, and they look to build wealth in a marriage because marriage is a business for them. And with marriage being a business for white men, this is how they basically finesse many black women who again get with a white man because they basically don't have any dating options due to the fact that they've been indoctrinated into feminism. And feminism has made it where these women want to find a man they can get power and control over as related to the relationship. But what happens is that these guys, again, play a chess game. They go along to get along for a minute. And then as things get too crazy, what they do as this woman is hopped up on her power and rising at the peak of her career is yank the rug out from under her by filing for divorce and then going out here and getting child and spousal support at the expense of that woman who basically thought she was going to hop over the fence, but basically hopped onto some spikes for a Mortal Kombat style fatality, a financial fatality that basically winds up wiping them out because in places like California with community property laws, this is where these guys, again, go out here and get half and live very well at the expense of these women who thought that they were going to be the master, but sadly wound up in another bad case of a divestment disaster. Now, if you want to learn how to break out of the paradigm of failure and learn how to have a healthy relationship with a man, you can pick up my book, Why 70% of Black Women Are Single, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find Why 70% of Black Women Are Single at other online booksellers like Draft the Digital, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, and big box retailers like Walmart and Target. And if you want to learn why so many women like Zoe Saldana wind up in a place like becoming feminist and how they wind up on this road to not being able to have healthy relationships, you can pick up my book, The Woman Crisis, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find The Woman Crisis at other online booksellers like Draft the Digital, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, and big box retailers like Walmart and Target. And if you want to see me take more celebrities to the barbecue, you can drop a donation to the Patreon, the PayPal, or the Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and e-readers, Isis, Dark Incubus. The goddess next door gets enthralled in a romantic entanglement with an evil incubus in this all-new Isis series adventure. Get your copy of Isis, Dark Incubus in paperback and e-readers today. Now available in paperback and e-readers, Esteem Horror in the Hamptons. The aspiring angel tries to escape a house of horrors in this action-packed, all-new Esteem series adventure. Get your copy of Esteem Horror in the Hamptons in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.